we started?
Are we start? Is it?
Are we started?
Are we start? Is that English correcting? Are we started?
Are we started?
Yes, we are. No, we're a little bit too happy and festive. We should be saddened by this occurrence in the Vatican as Catholics. What do you think? Should we be saddened?
I was sad. I liked him.
How can you like him?
He looks like my grandma.
Okay.
You look like my grandma. Rest in peace.
Well, you are also a bit German. You have German origins, so I guess that...
That's not from my grandma, though.
No.
She married a German.
She married a German. Yes. Just after the war, huh? Just after the war. But then he didn't come.
She was a secretary in the army.
Okay.
And he was in the army, too.
So, it's the end of the year, 2022. How you want to sum up this year today? With what kind of description?
This, what, for us or for everyone?
Not for
it
everyone.
was a crap year for everyone. We had to suffer through Biden for this whole year, and it was just worse and worse and worse.
I guess that is like torture, eh?
It was torture to watch him all year, and now all we have is another year to watch him again. And yeah, that's really not very good. Maybe in November we can get rid of him. Oh, it's not even this year, is it? We have another year.
We have a 2023, which 23 has a lot of special meaning for the Illuminati. We just had this occurrence, the death of Pope Benedict XVI, Joseph Ratzinger, the German Pope, who for many years before becoming Pope was the head of the modern Inquisition, the heir to the Inquisition, the Congregation for the Matters of Faith, which we also saw filled up with scandals in recent years since he has resigned with that cocaine-filled orgy we exposed live on InfoWars. Welcome everybody. Today is the 31st of December 2022, approaching 2023. We will be talking a lot about the significance of the number 23. In the meantime, of course, we can't start without our theme song. It's not a song really, it's a track, Dance Macabre. Welcome everybody tuning in on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course in the coming days also on Rumble, on BitChute. We will be posting this video that ends up this year, which was not really particularly successful for the Leo Zagami show. That's why this is the last appointment of the Leo Zagami show on Saturday morning. Yes, we will be changing the time, the day. We will be experimenting with the different times and different days. So this is basically the end of an era, the Saturday morning classic, the rundown of our geopolitical scenario. But of course it's not the end of the Leo Zagami show. In fact, we have a lot ready for you for 2023. We want to thank all those people who have been supporting us purchasing this book. Now this is the Italian edition. The English edition at the moment actually I gave away to some friends of ours for Christmas. Yes.
You don't have any book at all?
I don't have the book physically with me. I'm gonna be receiving it soon, but remember we have also volume 7 and volume 6, which has also a mention. These two books have also mentioned in today's article of leozagami.com fame. Yes, we have published an article dedicated, of course, to the death of Joseph Ratzinger, but also the funeral on the 5th of January. 5th of January is actually the birthday of my brother, the 5th of January, you know?
Is it?
Is it? Well, don't you remember? The 5th of January, we always used to go out for lunch with my brother back in Italy.
I remember.
I know, a long time has been passed since we were in Italy. Since 2019. This is my 4th Christmas in the United States of America and my 4th New Year's Eve in the United States of America. And this will be the year where we finally might get my full American citizenship at the end of the year. That's going to be very exciting. Absolutely.
It's a celebration.
It's a celebration. Now, Joseph Ratzinger. Joseph Ratzinger is somebody I met close up only once. You remember when I was in San Giovanni in Laterano, I came to celebrate a mass, and this strange little man, he was kind of short, arrived in front of me with his incense, moving it like he was some kind of magician. He gave me really, I mean, I don't know, it didn't give me the creeps, he gave me more like the idea of some kind of like mage trees with I don't know what. It was like
was this somebody else, or was
no,
this
Joseph Ratzinger?
He had
the incense. He was like going around, and
he did it around.
I was because I was. You remember I made that pic.
I was on the phone with you.
Yes. No. Well, you were on the phone with me another occasion when I was on the.
How many times did you see the Pope?
Two times close up, but this was very close up in San Giovanni Laterano. When I called you, I met him close up instead, a little bit more distant this time, at the Colosseum when he used to celebrate the Mass for Christmas. But in San Giovanni Laterano, which as you know was my local church, I used to know everyone, I managed to actually gather a place just in front of where he was celebrating Mass. So at one point he came close, his incense, and I took out my mobile phone and said, no, because I did it because I had made a bet with my mother an hour before that I will actually be able to meet the Pope close up, and there was like thousands of people gathered all over San Giovanni in Laterano, this church which used to be the headquarters of the Vatican before it moved to St. Peter's. And what happened? I mean, I live, as you know, you also lived there for many years, and so it was my local church and everything. I used to know everybody, and so I had kind of free access, and I could go through the security without any problems. And that's where I encountered really close up Ratzinger. Though I never talked with him, it was like basically he came in front of me, I made this pic, and then my mother was like, wow, you went really close. You actually did what you said you would be doing. Well, yeah, that's how it is. That's how it is. So welcome to the Leo Zagami show. I would suggest, Christy, at this point, air conditioning.
I thought you wanted me to open up a bottle of champagne.
No, not yet, but at the end of the show. Yes, we need air conditioning because, of course, with all the studio lights, it gets a little bit warm around here. And you see, we have the Happy New Year we can show to our audience by moving. You see, Christy, I can show the Happy New Year banner. It actually has...
different than that, but we don't have the patience to put it up.
Well, behind it,
it says 2023, but we don't have patience.
The 2023 is behind the Vatican, the image of the Vatican here of St. Peter's Square. In the last few hours, of course, all the people who usually gather there as tourists have been kind of removed from the square by the police, by my friend Francesco and all his people there in the local police. Francesco, for those who don't know, is the head of the inspectorate of the Vatican, and he's like an old friend of mine. And basically, he's like clearing up the path here to prepare for what's going to be a very unusual ceremony conducted by the current Pope on a Pope Emeritus. In the past, in history, of course, the death of popes that resigned, but in this case, they were rarely survived by their successor, who will then change, and then will be another pope, but there will not be a re-entry and a celebration of their life in this way. It's unusual, and so for the first time we don't have also a conclave following the death of Pope Ratzinger. What does that mean? There will be no election of a new pope. However, guys, Pope Francis might finally now have the possibility to resign. and that means a conclave will be probably issued in the coming month in 2023. However, at the moment, the Pope has planned a couple of visits, I think one in Africa, one elsewhere, so we have at least a couple of visits that are planned in the near future. So if he resigns, he's gonna probably resign coincidentally 10 years after his predecessor, if he does it in 2023, because Ratzinger resigned in February 2013, so it's 10 years to the date. The current plans of the Vatican for this celebration are of a more modest approach, in which officially there is no heads of state invited at the moment, though there is insistent remarks by various Vatican officials that this might still happen, because a lot of people have asked to be present for this ceremony that will take place on the 5th of January. Now, I have, of course, focused not so much on all these talks about this funeral on the 5th of January, but rather on the symbolism around the numbers, the symbolism also regarding the number 23. We are approaching 2023 tonight. Tomorrow is another day, a new year.
Could it be a good luck year?
2023 might symbolize things that are once again another negative turning point in the approach of the satanic takeover of the cyber Satan in 2030. I don't think there will be anything particularly positive. If not, some announcement could be made. I mean, 23 is a number that we will learn more about in today's show, and it's a number that usually doesn't have positive connotations. So here we have also another thing, 5. Of course, when you talk about 2023, you have to understand the 23, no? Also the 5th of January for Ratzinger. What does it mean, the 5th of January? 5th, but 5 is the sum of 2 and 3. When you sum 23, 2 and 3 in a kind of a Kabbalistic numerology approach, we can also go further and bring in also the significance of numbers in the Kabbalah, but we don't need to go that far in that kind of analysis now. What I would say is that, of course, is connected with also the pentagram, the 5. Now, the pentagram is a symbol used in all religions, used also in Freemasonry. The reverse pentagram, though, it has negative connotations and becomes then a satanic black magic connotation. So the number 5 has this ambivalent aspect. The fact that is definitely a ritual that has occult implications, a funeral like the one that will be conducted by Pope Francis on the 5th of January, that is inevitable. So the people want to know more about the number 23, they want to know more about the number 5, they want to know more about this funeral. Well, I will suggest to all these people to simply go on my website and read this article. Of course, we are broadcasting today on the last day of the year of the Lord 2022 from Palm Springs, California. Me and my wife, I'm Leo Zagami, my wife Christy Zagami is here. We are here to analyze, usually we analyze the weekly events, but here, guys, we are in front of an historical moment. We have a lot of things that have happened, of course, this week regarding also the war in Ukraine and other diableries concerning the New World Order, but of course we are focusing now on this. So Ratzinger here is, of course, the person who didn't find enough pedophilia. Actually, he was involved in some bad cover-ups, and for that reason I didn't want to really put him in paradise. I rather put him in hell, and for that reason I also linked the number 5 with the letter H, the initial letter for the word hell. So Ratzinger might have been the better of two evils, the lesser, how you say now, lesser of two evils, or the lesser of two evils, you say.
I don't know.
It depends. But in any case, welcome everybody. The Leo Zagami show today, thanks to the people mainly who have purchased volume 8 of my confessions, as we have not received any donations. So we don't receive any donations, but if you want to donate, we have also new means of donating internationally using an IBAN that we have for eventual donations, post-pay evolution card.
People in America don't know what that is.
The IBAN, no, this is more for Europeans. So in case, I will give that later on if you are interested. But in reality, most people use Cash App here in the United States, in Great Britain, GoFundMe that can be used also with PayPal. PayPal, and I say PayPal because we have been banned from PayPal. So it's a good way of bypassing the censorship. By if you are in some way linked to PayPal, you can go through GoFundMe. What do you think, Christine? Tell me.
I think that we know this already.
Well, I know, but we have to repeat it at each show. I know it's reiterating, but we have to. And the other, of course, means the other way is Fundly, which is probably the most successful one we had in the last few years. Couple of years since we've been banned. We were amongst the first people to be removed, censored from PayPal. And 2022 has been another year of censorship. We have just managed, after a whole year, to build back up this channel to almost the number of subscribers we had on the previous one, Top Secret, which 1 year ago was removed. We hope that this channel, of course, stays a little bit longer. The Leo Zagami Show channel, it's a new channel, and we are also broadcasting on Facebook. But we need your help to bypass the censorship, so we need you to subscribe to all the channels which I point out in the description. So then, if we are removed one day, you know that we are on another channel. I mean, I have a few channels on YouTube, and people ask me why. Well, in the Italian edition of my show, I use these channels because every time we get blocked or removed, we can just bounce from one channel to the other. And this system seems to work out for the Italians. I hope the Americans and the rest of the English-speaking world realizes that very soon.
What?
Well, why you did that?
Oh gosh, can we just stop this?
Okay.
They don't donate, and we're just gonna do a show, and that's it.
well, of course, but I hope that in 2023 we can actually re-expand this show by entering a new era, by choosing a new day, by choosing a new time. We have for example, Christy came up with an idea. So, Christy, what is the idea? What is the time you've chosen?
I thought maybe Sunday would be a good day. On a Sunday evening, we could do like a wrap-up of the news, and like kind of like not a Patriot meet the press. A Patriot meet the press.
A not so lip-tarded version of Meet the Press.
Yeah.
We will be the shortest show in American history. No, they are the longest show in American history. We are the shortest in the sense that we have been born just very recently compared to them. However, guys, let's analyze and continue to analyze what has been the content of my article, because this article, of course, is the latest on leozagami.com, and I think it gives us an idea of the symbolism surrounding this death of Pope Francis, the synchronicity. Now, I mentioned in this article Robert Anton Wilson, who was a known American author, futurist, psychologist, and self-described agnostic mystic, and one-time member of the Ordo Templi Orientis. He was very much fixated. He wrote, of course, he participated, co-wrote Illuminatus, which I have over there, the trilogy, and then he wrote Cosmic Trigger, excellent books, I must say. And he was fascinated by the number 23 because he discovered it through his friend William Burroughs and James Joyce. Now, I've mentioned the importance of number 23 more than once in volume 8 because it's so important also for the music business, but I wanted to also in a couple of videos make you understand further, maybe with the aid of other people, the importance of this number. So then, this is the protagonist number of the coming year. I'm talking about 2023, and the number is 23. So I picked up on various sources so to understand better. Let's start with Robert Anton Wilson and the 23 Enigma. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show from Leo and Christy. This is more interesting, Christy.
Yeah,
what do you
it
think?
is. It's more interesting.
Okay, then. That's fine.
I like it.
That's
I like to learn about
What is the 23 Enigma?
Well, the 23 Enigma, did I start to sound a little like Burroughs then? I thought I did. Well, the 23 Enigma, Burroughs told me about the 23 Enigma back around 65. He had observed a lot of coincidences connected with the number 23. And as soon as he told me that, I started noticing coincidences involving the number 23. I put a lot of them into the Illuminati novels, and I put a bunch of them into the first of my Cosmic Trigger trilogy. And ever since then, I've been getting letters from people who've observed odd 23s, and there's no end to it. I'll tell you a very amusing anecdote. I was in St. Louis giving a lecture, and a guy came up after the lecture with his wife and said, "I figured out how your 23 gimmick works." And I said, "Oh, tell me." And he said, "It's a neurological grid. You make your readers very conscious of 23, more conscious than they are of the other numbers." And I said, "Congratulations, you found the great magician who makes the grass green. That's a sign of enlightenment in Zen." Which I thought was an adequate answer. Then a little while later, it turned out we went out to have a pizza together, he and his wife and me. And one of those places where you get a number while you wait for your pizza. And of course, we got number 23. And he said to me, "How do you do it?" And I said, "I thought you did it that time." And I suppose he's still wondering about that. Well, so am I. It just happens, that's all. It's the enigma. Why does it keep happening? A neurological grid is part of it, but that's not all of it.
If you were elected president, what's the first thing you would do?
Resign.
Like what Robert Anton Wilson, who died in 2007, said when they questioned him what you would do as a president, the first thing you would do, "I resign." I mean, it would be definitely more honest than Joe Biden, and instead stays there forever. And
I can think of a lot of things I would do. Gosh.
Whatever. In any case, welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Today, I see we have many people following us on YouTube, on
Happy New Year,
Facebook.
everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Not
Please
yet, but soon.
share this video. We are analyzing, of course, the number 23, and I would like to analyze it through this compendium, this synthesis that was made quite well, and I found on the internet for you. And I think it's important to understand the inexplicable importance of the number 23 Enigma, because, of course, we are approaching 2023. So let's go here and analyze it together. We have also a movie, remember, dedicated to the number 23 with Jim Carrey.
We should watch that.
Yes, and it's all particularly significant. So
I want to watch that movie again.
absolutely, let's watch it on New Year's Eve.
Welcome back to our channel, and today we are back with another engrossing video where our protagonist is nothing but the number 23. Confused? We don't blame you. So let us give you a brief introduction through one very well-known and fan-favorite actor, Jim Carrey. Carrey starred in a 2007 American thriller movie directed by Joel Schumacher called The Number 23. While the movie didn't flare up in the box office, we definitely recommend you to watch it. It tells the story of Walter, a man who became enthralled by a novel in which the author believed that the number 23 was controlling and influencing his life. Walter soon begins to believe in the number 23 enigma too, and the movie follows his story. But we have talked enough about Walter, haven't we? Let us focus more on the interesting part of the story, the number 23 enigma. There are a lot of people who believe that this number plays a titular role in all incidents and events throughout the pages of history and the present. Without waiting anymore, let's rush to try and dig something up about the number 23. But before we do that, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the
Subscribe to our channel here. We need subscribers. 2023.
Make you an offer you can't refuse. You
I
said
will
it.
make you an offer you can't refuse.
Resist.
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 You can't
What a
resist.
weird.
Okay.
bell icon to not miss out on any video that pops up. Let us continue our search through the story of Walter, who had found a connection with every incident of his life to the number 23. He finds out that he was born on the 11th of December, and 11 plus 12 turns out to be 23. He continues to find the presence of the number in his marriage date and many other important events in his life. This led him to obsessively search for other coincidences of the number 23 with incidents in reality. One such realistic fact was that each parent contributes 23 chromosomes to the child's DNA, and it is the 23rd chromosome that decides what sex the child will be. Not just that, it takes 23 seconds for blood to circulate in our body. Moving over human beings, we observe that 23 has played a role in history too. The number comes up in some famous assassinations in history, such as Julius Caesar being infamously stabbed 23 times and President Kennedy being assassinated on the 22nd of November, 1963, which adds up to 23. 23 comes up in some most tragic events too, such as the Hiroshima-Nagasaki bomb attack, which happened on the 6th of August of 1945. The disastrous 9/11 attack, which occurred on September of 2001, and surprisingly, all the dates add up to the number 23. The widely speculated Gizzi and Sumerian calendars begin on the 23rd of July. And let us not forget the widely popularized Mayan prophecy that the world was ending on the 23rd of December 2012. You turn to literature, and yet you won't miss the number 23. The great playwright William Shakespeare passed away on April 23rd, 1616, yet another date that adds up to 23. The Latin alphabet is composed from 23 letters. Even science doesn't miss out on the number 23, with the Earth having an inclination of 23.5 degrees and the 23 axioms in Euclid geometry. The number makes its appearance in the sphere of religions, too, such as 2/3 gives us 0.666, which is widely believed to be the devil's number. The best-known psalm in the Bible is 23, and even the number of fallen angels is considered to be 23. These do seem like never-ending coincidences, don't they? But can we call it a coincidence when it comes up in so many instances and more? We don't believe so. There are thousands of such occasions where the number 23 rears up its head, and although we aren't the crazy Walter, it does make us think whether this particular number does have a magical power or not. Likewise, many people before us have thought the same. So let us try to understand the origin of this enigma, following which people started to question the multiple appearances of this number. The theory of the number 23 enigma first came up in the science fiction novel trilogy Illuminatus, written by writers Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson, who brought many conspiracy theories to life through this set of stories in 1975. One such article written by Wilson, titled Phenomenon 23, explains the phenomenon of 23 coming up everywhere. He refers to one of the writers of the Beat generation, William Burroughs, who was perhaps one of the first persons who tried to uncover the 23 enigma. Burroughs recalls a conversation with Captain Clark of Tangier, who boastfully told him that he had been sailing on the seas for 23 years without a singular incident and eerily had an accident on the next voyage he set on. killing all the passengers on board. While Burroughs was reflecting on this incident, he heard a radio report the same day about an aircraft pilot, Clark, whose airplane had an accident killing all the passengers on board. And get this, it was Flight 23. Like any other curious person, Burroughs began to research about the number 23 and related incidents and wrote a short story, 23 Skidoo. He narrated various incidents, such as gangster Schultz, who murdered hitman Vincent Call when he was 23 years old on the 23rd Street in New York. Schultz himself murdered on October 23rd by a man who was 23 years old and served 23 years of prison term before he received bail. While we were tongue-tied by the amount of times the number 23 appeared in this single incident, imagine about people who are actually haunted by this strange number. That's right, there have been many reports and claims that many people see the number everywhere, as if it is some kind of mental virus that wants to control their lives. While all this seems inexplicable, we have tried to find some logical explanations behind this peculiar enigma. One such explanation could be the natural tendency to find meaningful connections between unrelated things, popularly known as apophenia. Humans tend to find rules in their lives, even if they face of pure facts, leading them to recognize and link random patterns, investigations, or connections. It also happens that out of several incidents, there are a few particular incidents that raise our curiosity, and we try to find everything about these and see them everywhere. For example, people who have recently bought a new car of a certain model have a tendency to recognize the same model of the car everywhere spontaneously, right? Which might lead them to believe that this car is the most popular, when in reality, it isn't. It's our subjective reality that leads us to believe that something is magical, inexplicable, and exceptional, even when it might just be an ordinary event. Burroughs and Wilson operated in the same manner, obsessively searching for a certain connection between random incidents, even though there might be thousands of other dates that are linked by the same number. After all, there are infinite numbers, and it makes things much easier when we start to add up the dates and find a common number that appears continuously. And when we fall into the trap that our subjective reality leads us to, we start to make and solve riddles by ourselves, hoping to prove that these connections appear everywhere. If you take up a calendar, your mind will consider all the dates as random until you start fixating on a particular date. But we are now leaving this up to you. Do you really think that these are mere coincidences and the studies proving the number 23 enigma are false? Or is it just us fixating on a particular number and making a mountain out of a molehill? Do not forget to comment on what you think below.
And
Can I
what
comment
does,
on what I think?
yes, what does Christy Zagami think of
I was just
number
gonna-
23?
I was gonna say that before I didn't know about the number 23, but all my life, I don't know. For me, it was a good luck number. I would if I was gonna take a trip on a plane, I always pick 23. I met you on the 20. I came to Rome the first time on April 23rd.
Which I noticed.
So
Well,
yeah.
it's a synchronicity that some say is divine, angelic, others say it has a dark side and turns out to be demonic. So
Maybe it's who's using it, maybe.
this is what I said also in my article in the end. It's about either the divine or either the demonic side. Interpretations vary, but definitely we are about to be introduced to a year, 2023, that is not going to be any ordinary year. We have already symptoms of something wrong coming back from China once again. We don't want to even mention it. And of course, we have the never-ending struggle internal to the American system, which in the past, of course, proved to be a very strong system, and now probably with all these problems that are internally caused, we can say it's getting weaker and weaker, with the Democrats taking over the show and destroying all the American values and promoting everything that is woke, libtard, and whatnot. Now, as you know, in my latest book, I talk about all this and how Hollywood is the center of this mission for propagating the twisted vision and ideology of the Antichrist. Happy New Year to everybody who is tuning in, and of course, Happy New Year to our friends who are watching us from all over the world.
Yeah, we have people from all over.
Pope Ratzinger died, of course, in the early hours of the morning in Rome. The news spread like a house on fire, you can say. And all over the world, of course, they are talking about what's going to happen now that for the first time a pope dies with a pope in charge of things. So it's a emeritus that dies, not really a pope who was covering any practical, formal role. But of course, he was still present in the church. And a lot of people used to say that Ratzinger was the real pope.
Yeah,
they fought for a minute that this guy, of course, he said and did also great things. I mean, when it came down to his criticism of the Muslim world, that Muhammad wanted to convert by the sword, when it came down to his criticism about the LGBTQ community, was sincerely, I find a little bit hypocritical though, because him and Padre Georg look like really a married couple. But in any case, we had also other moments in which he also tried to regain the traditional side of the Church of Catholicism. He wanted to readmit certain Lefebvrean schismatic people who are part of the so-called sede vacantist world. The Lefebvre, Monsignor Lefebvre, started this branch that kind of became a schismatic branch of Catholicism. But of course, he was also very much anti-Semitic, so he didn't. But Ratzinger was actually of Jewish descent. That's the incredible thing. People don't know that. And in the future, I have to find the documents I used to have. I would like to discuss also his link to worms, and that is really the place which I discuss also in volume 8, where the Elkank family comes from, and where the magic of Abramelin, the mage, comes from. So I want to go back into my archives. I didn't have time yet since this morning to do all that kind of research for this show, which is a brief show. I have to admit, we are of course present, but we will be a little bit more brief and concise in this new format that wants to reach more people. And we are talking about the number 23. No? Talking about the number 23, I have also another interesting gentleman which I wanted to talk about. Somebody who a few years ago claimed to have spent 23 minutes in hell. Now, this guy is, of course, a Protestant Christian minister, Bill Weiss. He published a book later called 23 Minutes in Hell. It came out, I think it was published in 2006, though his experience was from the 90s. I think in 1998 he had this descent into hell, this out-body experience. He described these visions. But I wanted to show you his own testimony about it in today's show. Welcome everybody, by the way. We're having a jolly good time. Even if, of course, for Catholics worldwide, it's a time of reflection after the death of a pope. You might not like a pope. You might, of course, like me, have had a little bit of I didn't really love Ratzinger in any way. Actually, I was kind of critic towards him. And some say that my first edition of volume 3 of my confessions, as you remember, where I published certain things regarding also his cover-up of pedophilia and homosexuality, and in early, I think January, February, when I went and did a conference in Sicily in front of the church where they give the knighthood of the Holy Sepulchre in Palermo, I discussed the fact that he was found with a young guy in his car, his Mercedes, I think. He launched a satellite alarm he had in the car because he got stuck, and they found him with a younger guy. This is also something that comes back to mind. I mean, it's stuff that is from almost 10 years ago. So, but it kind of like, you remember in Italy there was a strong reaction when I published volume 3, volume 1, volume 2. I mean, it was not a small thing. I mean, people nowadays give my books for granted, but when they take them for granted, yes. But when I started to adventure myself in this mission to expose the Illuminati through books, I got a lot of offers also from the Vatican and from people very close to Ratzinger, like Antonio Leonardo Montuoro, and they were trying to bribe me, basically. That was
lots of gifts back then.
Lots of gifts. Christy liked the gifts, but I always said to her, don't get used to it, because
I didn't care, and
I know, absolutely.
Well, we had a lot of gifts.
They gave us a lot of gifts, yeah. It was a time of gifts, but also a time of discovery that if we continued on that path, Christy, we will probably compromise ourselves.
We don't stay, even if somebody gives us gifts or whatever, we don't stay on that road if it's going to compromise us. So.
Yes, our path needs to stay
even
clear.
Even if it's a poor path.
No, it's not a question of poor.
It's poor with material, but rich with love.
yes. And
then you're rich with everything, because money doesn't make you happy, and that's the truth.
Money doesn't make you happy. That's true. Absolutely. And we have never done this for money. No. That's why people need to understand that when I'm selling volume 8 at $23, a book of 700 pages.
$23.
It's I know it's very late.
But it's the number 23.
I know. And that's why I did it. So now you know the reason why the book is sold at the moment for $23. But for how long? I don't know. Because, the problem is that it doesn't make me much money if there is not many people buying it. So there has to be a lot of people buying it. $23, book of almost 700 pages, is literally giving out the book for free. So, that's how it is.
People don't, $20 is a lot of money to people.
I know, but that's why we are trying to make this possible. Remember, you can find the link.
If you need to spend $20 and you don't know how to spend it, this is a good way.
This is the book. Okay, volume 8 of my confession. And really, this 8 that then resurfaces, because then I will explain you one day the covers, the symbolism around it. We have a lot of people tuning in, People are, of course, appreciating what we are doing. So let's go back into the discussion of the number 23 by this gentleman, Bill Weiss, which I mentioned just earlier. And I want to pick up exactly at the beginning.
I think it might be Weiss.
Weiss. Okay, not Weiss.
W-I-E-S, right?
Yes. Weiss, yes.
Sounds German.
Okay. Let's listen to his own experience with the number 23. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show!
And so on. And it's interesting that 23 means death. Now, first of all, I discovered that the word hell is mentioned 23 times in the King James New Testament. It was also interesting how many times this number kept coming up after my experience. For example, the publisher asked me to write the book, and I was late completing it. And after many edits, I rushed down to the post office to mail it off. Well, it happened to be the 23rd of the month. I also noticed that I spoke 23 times during the first year after this experience. Now, for several years, during every ministry trip, the number 23 would come up somehow. For instance, our seat was changed to row 23 on the plane. Or the pilot would say, we are flying at 23,000 feet. Or it's 23 degrees at our destination. Or the crosswinds are at 23 miles per hour. Now, at a church meeting, we had 23 people come to Christ. Or maybe our car rental spot was in row 23, and so on. Now, one particular trip, 23 had not come up. We were leaving the church, and a guy came up to us and said, Bill, you're my Michael Jordan. Now, it became pretty humorous at that point. You know, it's also interesting that this just happens to be the 23rd year since this experience. Now, I want to read you also some commentaries on the number 23. Matthew Henry's commentary on the whole Bible says, and this he's talking about the Old Testament, the courts of judgment sat in the gate of their principal cities, the judges ordinarily in number 23. These tried, condemned, and executed murderers, so that whoever killed was in danger of their judgment. Now that's interesting. There had to be 23 people on the jury to condemn someone to death. So 23 connected to death again. Unger's commentary, page 1075, says, part of man's curse is toil and labor. And that occurs 23 times in the book of Genesis. Interesting. Another one, Pastor Chuck Smith, he said this, according to many physicists, a polar axis shift takes place about every 5,000 years. Our present polar axis is set at 23 degrees pitch in its relation to the sun. This slant gives the Earth its seasons. Physicists tell us that a polar axis shift creates great convulsions throughout the Earth, causing mountains to disappear. It is very possible that the flood in Noah's time could have been created by the polar axis shift. It would closely correspond to the time some physicists...
Sorry, I thought we had some echo before. In case you had some echo, I saw somebody commenting, says it's better. It's just like sometimes we have to adjust the setups. But thank you for pointing it out. We like sometimes this interaction with our audience, and they can also suggest technical matters. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing with the words about 23, the number 23. This time, I guess he has a positive view of it, or a biblical view of it, which is, of course, much more, less dark than the other. But you see, number 23 can have different connotations from two completely different perspectives. On one side, we have people like William Burroughs, people like Robert Anton Wilson, the occult, the Illuminati. Then you have the more religious view of the number 23. Very interesting.
Yeah, I always took my vacations on 23. Always, always, always. Even before I met you.
Let's listen.
Say the last shift took place. Now that's interesting that the flood involves death, and the Earth axis happens to be at 23 degrees. Again, the death connected with 23. Now, just to give you some more verses, I also found out that there are many verses where the address of the verse, or in the body of the verse, it mentions 23, all throughout the Bible, and it's usually connected with hell or death. For instance, just to give you a few, Luke 16:23, Jesus was talking about the rich man in hell. And in verse 23, it says, and in hell he lifted up his eyes. Jude 23 says, and others saved with fear, pulling them out of the fire, talking about hell. Proverbs 11:23, the expectation of the wicked is wrath. That wrath is talking about judgment in hell. Matthew 11:23, Jesus said, he shall be brought down to hell. 1 Corinthians 10:8 says, neither let us commit fornication as some of them committed and fell in one day 20 and 3,000. And Psalms 23, it's usually read at funerals. So I think that's interesting. Now, you may think this is all contrived, but it's not. My wife and I simply see this as God's sense of humor to encourage us.
Well, I mean, that's a point of view. God's sense of humor, synchronicity. I'm glad we fixed this echo thing. It wasn't really due to us. It was due to this StreamYard nonsense that for some reason had changed the setups. We, of course, invite you to listen to our show maybe in an ambiance that doesn't suffer too much the echo effect that we incurred earlier. But I say in?
I don't know.
Ah, okay. Guys, Happy New Year. Show the behind this beauty. Happy New Year! And under, if you go under here.
Don't pull it.
No, this is actually 2023. Yeah?
It's supposed to be over this whole thing, but we just couldn't do it. And then he wanted me to wear it like a banner. I was like, no, I'm not going to wear it like the Statue of Liberty.
Okay, guys. It seems like, of course, people are wondering now what's going to happen in the Vatican. And I think that we can say very clearly that Pope Francis, the next thing he's going to do is probably to resign once he gets this out of the way.
Do you think he might try to resign now? Because like everybody's concentrating on the death of the other Pope, and so then he can just slide out?
No, because like I said a minute ago, there is some kind of things that he has to finish. Like he has announced some pastoral visits that he needs to. I mean, you can't say to a country in the middle of nowhere in Africa, I'm coming to visit you, and then sorry, I have resigned.
He does that. He does do that.
Well, there is like
he says he's going to go somewhere, like Argentina, and then he never goes.
Well, yeah, you might. I guess that's true, but most of the times when he promises something, he has to maintain it. I mean, promise. Okay, maybe it went further than the promise. It's already an organized, official thing with all the various diplomatic things have already been sent and accepted. It becomes very formal. In any case, I think that he's going to resign in February like his predecessor. I think he's going to wait for February. I think that a lot of people are following us today should keep that in mind. Leo Zagami told you he will resign 10 years to the date following what Ratzinger did. It could happen. It could happen. Maybe it will not happen. But if it happens, I told you so. I don't know. Usually I'm right.
Yeah.
When it comes to the number 23,
usually you're right. I mean, I think you're always right, but you announce these things and then people change their plans. So you were saying he was going to resign, and then he's like, I am not going to resign now. If he says I'm not going to resign.
Well, Pope Francis, yeah, he got a little bit kind of like this, especially because Pope Francis is a guy actually met even closer than Ratzinger. It's about really the interactions that people have with this Vatican, that's weaker and weaker, but it's also becoming the mouthpiece of this liberal New World Order. So all the values that they are trying to push are the values of, whatever value you see in the woke agenda, you will see in the Vatican these days. And of course, Bergoglio has been a very different Pope than Ratzinger. Bergoglio has been the Pope that has normalize almost in the Vatican a liberal approach that is mixing all the religions together in this one world religion, after he himself encouraged it with that Human Fraternity document. His relationship with Islam is a very different one from Ratzinger. I mean, Ratzinger could hardly, diplomatically speaking, after what happened with the Ratzinger criticism of Mohammed, I think from that moment onwards, the relations were kind of kaput. There was a lot of countries in which Ratzinger's image was burnt to the ground. It infuriated them, the fact that a Pope could have said something about Mohammed. And so I think that what we see now is a very different thing, and 2023 will be one step closer once again to this normalization of a Vatican that is more and more progressive and far from those traditional values. And these traditional values were basically lost with the Second Vatican Council, and whatever was produced in the Second Vatican Council saw also, by the way, the participation of Ratzinger. Ratzinger was young back then. The Second Vatican Council started in basically between was formulated and launched between the end of the 50s and beginning of the 60s, and ended in December 1965. Now, in my new book, I talk about the Second Vatican Council importance in kind of like normalizing the kind of popish approach, populist approach that the church wanted to have, being guitarist, hippie style. Christy told me a story when she was very young in the 70s, I think, or 80s.
It was in the 90s, actually.
Okay, already in the 90s. Sorry. 90, but you brought your children to a Catholic mass.
Yeah, I didn't have kids in the 70s. How old would I be? 150?
Yes. But in any case,
don't make me older.
No. But in any case, in the 90s, you went to a church which was already abandoning the traditional mass, and
they had a ukulele.
Now, remember that Ratzinger might still be perceived by some as a traditionalist, but he was still practicing the Novus Ordo. He was still practicing basically the main tenets of the Second Vatican Council. Already John Paul II was the same. His predecessor, of course, was directly involved with the Second Vatican Council, Pope Montini. I wrote about all this in my book, Pope Francis the Last Pope, ? Which was a bestseller a few years ago, which talked about also the resigning of Pope Ratzinger in the first chapter. It's very much based on this transformation. A book, Pope Francis the Last Pope ? Which I have republished in Italian more recently with an updated version. And then I've been working, of course, on trying to always get people to understand what's really happening in the Vatican, even when, of course, you have the mainstream media, which really doesn't really know anything about what really goes on. They give you the official version, which is like this morning given by somebody. This morning was a guy called Bruni, I think, Bruni, who announced that very sad, very felt, stand that the Pope, of course, died, and that the funeral will, of course, take place on the 5th of January. And this funeral, like I said earlier, is supposed to be a more modest and simple funeral, because that's what Pope Ratzinger apparently wanted. Pope Francis had already asked for prayers for his predecessor, but Pope Francis himself is not feeling that well himself, and he is rather sick. Let's remember this, that Pope Francis this year basically is the same age as Ratzinger when he resigned.
Really?
So you see, 10 years after, that's why I said we could have a resignation that fits exactly to the date, this, the resignation. He was basically the same age. Now Pope Francis is the same age, and this will be basically kind of almost instituting a tradition that at 85 the Pope resigns. You have
But isn't he like the last Pope?
Well, it's definitely the last traditional Pope as we know it, because popes are becoming less and less traditional, and they are becoming something that is in line with this new image, which wants to be the Bishop of Rome rather than a Pope and a head of all the church, a more communistic approach where every cardinal is a Pope, where every bishop is a Pope, where it's communism. It's communism, and it's this liberal approach that has liberal theology that has infiltrated the church. I actually had a book that I was reading the other day, which I might want to discuss with you in the future episodes of the Leo Zagami Show. I want to remind you that aside from my books, you can also purchase my wife's books that are a great insight in what really went on behind the scenes with the Zagamis. We have here also another protagonist of it, ladies and gentlemen, Rambo.
He went this week.
Ecco, now this was a very interesting experience. Rambo, as some of you may know, because a long time ago I told this story, Christmas story.
I think you told it
to the maybe Italians, maybe not to. Well, basically, he had we adopted him after he had an accident.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. An accident.
Fatal accident for his family.
For his family.
I wrote about it in my first book.
Yes.
He's not going to stay here. So.
Happy New Year to Franco, Alan, Miss D, Sukef, Electric Eye, everybody who is on the chat and who will, of course, follow this video in the coming days and weeks. We hope this video will reach you all over the world, and wish you together with my wife and my little dog. This week we brought him to a chiropractor.
Yeah, because he was always walking kind of crooked from the accident. Okay,
he's a survivor. His SUV destroyed the cage.
His cage popped out. It flew open. He escaped. He was up in the mountains for 3 days. Who knows what he went through? It was probably too much for a little 4-month-old puppy.
Yeah.
But anyway, he when I got him, and for the rest of the time, for the last 14 years, he's been walking kind of crooked. And I didn't know that there was such a thing as dog chiropractors. And so I found a holistic vet in Joshua Tree. And so I wanted to take Rambo just because I've changed his diet to natural food, and I want to make sure it was right for him. So I wanted her to look at him, and she said that he needed an adjustment because he was crooked. And I said, yeah, he is crooked. And so she adjusted his back, like when you go and get your back, and wow, he walks straight now, and he seems so much, I can't keep him on here now. Anyway, I think that it was really good for him, and I think that it's going to prolong him with us and he's going to be happier. That's more important. That he's going to have a happy life. So,
yeah.
He's had a happy life, but I didn't know that it could be fixed. So.
Yeah, and then also a very holistic approach, which it's.
I love that so much.
It was great. Thank you so much. I guess. To this vet, we don't want to, of course, tell her name.
She's the best.
But she's definitely a great.
And thank you to Lorenzo, because Lorenzo from Spaghetti Western.
Spaghetti Western is definitely our new favorite hangout here in the area. You can find Spaghetti Western in Morongo Valley. It's an Italian mix with an American tradition, all in one, and it's a great place. And Lorenzo helped us find this holistic vet for Rambo. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in today, the last day of the year. We want to finally open this bottle.
No, we're not going to open it now.
Well,
come on.
Okay, you can bring him there and bring me the bottles in the fridge, because we are going to open this bottle. Because I would like to open it with all of you, but of course I would like to open it also.
What? Well, you're gonna open one now and then open one for your Italian show?
Well,
the Italians are closer to midnight than the Americans.
That's why you didn't want to open it.
We only have one bottle.
Okay, so we will be opening you this bottle. Not yet.
Sorry, I'm the boss.
Well, but we could open it.
No, we can't.
Okay. No, yeah. Okay. Well, I will, of course, make a virtual brindisi, as they say. The brindisi is the way you. How you say it in English?
A salute
a virtual salute to all of you, wherever you're following us around the world. Have a blessed New Year's Eve, and
safe to be
safe and of course a safe New Year. Rambo is all over the place.
Well, that's not good.
Well, he's energetic. That's good. That's good. Get my new book to support the show, or you can sponsor us through the usual means. We will see you in the new year. It was our pleasure to conduct this special episode of the Leo Zagami show.
And there's 123
And
people.
from the new year, we will have a new time. We will have this kind of new, more faster-spaced format for all of you that I think you are enjoying much more. Thank you very much.
It's actually it's a $10 thing from Trader Joe. It's really good though, Prosecco.
Well, actually, yes, guys, I advise really spending the list because I, as an expert on various kinds of Proseccos, I would say that this one that costs almost half as much as a Mionetto or a third of a Berlucchi, or there is other kinds of Sfumanti, it's actually a very good one.
Yeah, it's good.
And I kind of
Makes
enjoy
nice
it.
mimosa.
It makes a perfect mimosa. Huh? Mm. We should get the sponsorship by these people. We don't get sponsorship by anyone. They knew. So think about it for the year 2023.
Bye, everyone. Happy
Yeah.
New Year. See you next time. Yeehaw. Bye. You're so mad.
Dramatic. We could be very good in silent movies. We should relaunch silent movies.
Yeah, you would be really with those eyebrows. Totally.
We should relaunch silent movies.
They don't have to listen to you.
What? What is it? Ah, put this on top here.
You're so weird. Okay, stop torturing them now.
Bye bye,
Gosh,
guys.
everyone.
Happy New Year. Enjoy. Don't drink too much. Don't smoke too much. But enjoy.
Ow, my foot is cramping. Turn it off.
Ah!
I got a foot cramp.
Oh, that's terrible.
Wait, I'm out of here.
Okay.
Yay.
From Palm Springs, California. That's it. And a little bit more.